Hello there. Welcome back to Midnight Ocean. I'm Velen, your guide to traveling through the wonders of the ocean. Tonight, we're going to discover the bioluminescence of marine life in the ocean's depths. If these cozy moments calm you, I invite you to subscribe, share a comment, or leave a like. Now, get comfortable, take a deep breath. Don't be afraid, you're safe here. Let's dive deep into the sea and let our imagination guide us to a peaceful and deep night. The sailfish, Istiophorus platypterus*, is the fastest fish on the planet. It tops the charts at a maximum speed of 110 kilometers per hour, making it the undisputed champion of the open ocean. It's the first on a list of animals that each solved the problem of speed in water in completely different ways. The black marlin, Machaira indica*, with a rigid body and fixed pectoral fins that can hit up to 129 kilometers per hour in sprints. The shortfin mako shark, Isurus oxyrhynchus*, the fastest shark, reaching 74 kilometers per hour with a body temperature above that of the surrounding water. The yellowfin tuna, Thunus albicares*, which swims at 71 kilometers per hour using muscles warmed by internal heat exchange. The swordfish, Xiphias gladius*, which heats its own eyes and brain with a specialized organ to hunt with greater precision. The common dolphin, Delphinus delphis*, the fastest marine mammal, hitting 60 kilometers per hour using horizontal rather than vertical fins. The orca, Ursinus orca*, which reaches 56 kilometers per hour with a bite force of 19,000 psi. The California flying fish, Cypselurus californicus*, which accelerates to 56 kilometers per hour underwater to launch itself and glide up to 200 meters through the air. And the genta penguin, Pygacilus papua*, the fastest bird in the water, reaching 36 kilometers per hour using flippers that work like Boeing's 747 wings. The sailfish can fold its dorsal fin, the sail, to reduce drag and push its speed even higher during hunting sprints. Picture tracking an adult sailfish during a hunt. The animal measures between 2 and 3 meters, weighs up to 100 kilograms, and covers 110 kilometers in an hour, a distance equivalent to crossing a major city from one end to the other. No human swimmer, not even the fastest in history, breaks 10 kilometers per hour. The sailfish swims 11 times faster than that. That contrast is the starting point. What exactly is happening inside and around this animal that makes it biologically capable of reaching a speed that, on the road, would be considered dangerous even for cars? The comparison to speed on land isn't just a fun fact. It exposes the core problem. Water is 800 times denser than air. Every meter traveled through it costs infinitely more energy than traveling that same meter above the surface. Think of a professional cyclist pedaling at 40 kilometers per hour into a headwind. Now multiply the resistance they feel by 800. That would be the equivalent of the constant struggle any fish faces, just moving slowly. Accelerating to 110 kilometers per hour in that environment demands such precise body engineering that any structural flaw would mean wasted energy and a much lower top speed. The dorsal fin, the sail the animal is named after, is the most visible and most commonly misunderstood feature. When the sailfish is swimming slowly or herding schools of fish, the fin stays raised, acting as a wall that prevents smaller fish from escaping sideways. It's a group hunting tool. But the moment it needs to hit top speed, the animal folds that structure completely against its back, tucking it into a specific anatomical groove. The body becomes smooth, with no protrusions generating drag. The switch between the two configurations happens in a fraction of a second, precise muscular control of an articulated bony structure. The sailfish's tail is crescent-shaped, technically called a lunate homocircle tail. That design isn't random. When the tail sweeps side to side, each stroke propels the body forward with minimal disruption to the surrounding water. Think of a well-designed ship propeller versus a flat paddle. Both push water, but the propeller converts energy into forward thrust with far less waste. The lunate tail works on the same principle. Force applied in exactly the direction of movement, with no energy lost to turbulence. The same shape appears in pelagic sharks and tuna, animals that are equally fast, suggesting a convergent solution to a single physical problem. Another less obvious detail involves the jaw. The sailfish secretes an oily mucus that coats the surface of its long, narrow snout. That oil reduces friction between the body and water molecules during maximum acceleration. The exact same concept as reducing friction in land engines, but applied biologically. The spear-shaped snout splits the water before it reaches the widest part of the body, reducing frontal impact. Combined with the oily secretion, the effect is a kind of hydrodynamic lubrication that cuts resistance without the need for any additional mechanical structures. The animal secreted its own chemical solution to a physical problem. Extreme speed without control is useless for a predator. The sailfish pairs raw speed with precise maneuverability. The pectoral fins, located on the sides of the body, just behind the gills, work like airplane rudders, allowing sharp directional changes mid-chase. A school of small sardines can change direction in milliseconds. The sailfish has to match that movement without losing speed. The combination of a tapered body, a propulsive tail, and steering fins makes this animal a hunter that doesn't have to choose between speed and precision. It is both at the same time, which sets it apart from predators that trade one for the other. The sailfish's visual system rounds out the hydrodynamic package. Its eyes are large and positioned on the sides of the head, giving a wide field of view that detects movement in nearly every direction at once. Visual resolution is high enough to track individual fish within dense, fast-moving schools. During a hunting sprint at 110 kilometers per hour, the ability to process visual information and convert it into real-time trajectory adjustments is just as critical as the speed itself. A fast predator that can't see precisely what it's chasing will collide, miss, waste energy, and fail the hunt. The sailfish's body contains red muscle along the lateral line, tissue rich in myoglobin, the protein that stores oxygen inside the muscle fiber. This allows sustained muscle contractions without relying exclusively on oxygen dissolved in the blood. During sprints, when oxygen demand momentarily outpaces the circulatory system's delivery capacity, the muscle draws on its local reserves. After the sprint, the animal drops back to lower speeds while the cardiovascular system replenishes those reserves. It's the same mechanism that allows human athletes to sustain brief maximum efforts, but optimized for a body that exists inside a fluid 800 times more resistant than air. The sailfish doesn't hunt alone. Groups of individuals coordinate attacks on schools of fish, taking turns using the raised fin as a barrier while the others strike. That division of roles maximizes collective efficiency. Each animal tires less because no single one is always responsible for the full-speed chase. The individual top speed of 110 kilometers per hour becomes even more lethal within a group strategy that cuts off the prey's escape routes. The ocean's speed champion doesn't rely solely on its biology. It also relies on coordinated behavior that amplifies the impact of every physical adaptation it has carried in its body since birth. Water is 800 times denser than air. A car hitting 110 kilometers per hour on the road is fighting air resistance. A fish hitting that same speed is fighting a resistance that's incomparably greater. To overcome that, the sailfish combines 4 simultaneous adaptations: a tapered body that splits water without generating turbulence, a crescent-shaped tail that converts each stroke into direct forward thrust, a foldable dorsal fin that eliminates drag during sprints, and oil secreted from the jaw that lubricates the flow of water around the body. Together, these features make the sailfish not just fast, but highly maneuverable as well. The black marlin takes things further. Its pectoral fins are rigid and cannot be folded against the body, unlike other marlins, which reduces lateral drag even more during high-speed sprints. Two different animals, two distinct engineering solutions to the same physical problem. Hydrodynamic drag is the force water exerts against any object trying to move through it. That force scales with the square of velocity. Doubling speed quadruples drag. A fish swimming at 10 kilometers per hour faces 4 times more resistance than one swimming at 5 kilometers per hour. At 110 kilometers per hour, the drag is 121 times greater than at 10 kilometers per hour. Every increase in speed demands disproportionately greater muscular force to overcome that growing barrier. The physics don't negotiate. Without adaptations that reduce drag simultaneously with increased speed, no biological muscle could accumulate enough power to come anywhere close to triple digits in water. Turbulence is the primary enemy of aquatic speed. When water flows around an object, it can stay in organized layers, laminar flow, or begin spinning in chaotic eddies, turbulent flow. Laminar flow slides past with minimal friction. Turbulent flow creates additional drag and burns energy. The sailfish's body shape was refined over millions of years to maintain laminar flow as long as possible at high speeds. The pointed snout begins separating water molecules smoothly. The wider midsection disperses pressure. The rear tapers down to the tail, gathering the flow back without leaving a turbulent wake behind. It's aerodynamics, or hydrodynamics, applied in flesh. The drag coefficient measures how much a shape resists movement through a fluid. A sphere has a high coefficient, a fusiform shape, elongated at both ends, widest in the middle, has a significantly lower one. The sailfish's body is fusiform by definition. Naval and aeronautical engineering studies arrived at similar shapes through mathematical calculation. Biology arrived at the same point through generations of selective pressure. When engineers designed torpedoes, submarine hulls, and high-speed aircraft fuselages, they're unknowingly replicating what fast pelagic animals already exhibit. The efficient shape for moving fast through a fluid is, fundamentally, one and the same. The lunate tail's propulsion works according to the same principle as airplane wings. Bernoulli's principle applied to movement. As the tail sweeps, the concave and convex sides create pressure differences that generate force perpendicular to the fin's motion. In other words, forward thrust. Each lateral stroke converts into forward momentum with far greater efficiency than tails with different shapes. Slow freshwater fish have rounded or fan-shaped tails, useful for maneuvering, inefficient for speed. Fast pelagic fish converge on the lunate shape because physics pushes them that way. It's the shape that extracts the most propulsion from every gram of activated muscle. The sailfish's musculature is distributed in a specific way along the body axis. The greatest concentration of muscle mass sits in the central region of the body, near the center of gravity. This reduces rotational inertia, the resistance a body offers when trying to change direction. Imagine a weight concentrated at the center of a rod versus spread across its ends. The first rotates far more easily. The same principle applies here. Muscle concentrated in the center, lighter extremities. The tail sweeps quickly, the head stays stable, the entire body maintains a straight trajectory. A balance between propulsive force and structural stability, solved biologically. The mucus secreted from the sailfish's snout reduces viscous drag, the resistance created by the viscosity of water itself. Water isn't completely frictionless internally. Molecules interact with each other, and with solid surfaces. Hydrophobic or oily substances reduce that interaction. The oil the animal produces forms a layer between the body surface and the external fluid, cutting molecular friction at the interface. High-performance watercraft use a similar principle with special paints and polymer coatings that reduce friction with water. The sailfish biochemically produces a functional equivalent of those naval engineering solutions, with the added advantage of continuously renewing the coating during the act of swimming itself. The black marlin presents a remarkable evolutionary variation within this set of adaptations. While other marlins can tuck their pectoral fins against the body during sprints, the black marlin's pectoral fins are rigid and stay fixed. Intuitively, that seems like a disadvantage. More exposed surface means more drag. However, the structural rigidity of the fins eliminates any unwanted vibration or lateral movement at high speed. At extreme velocities, even small oscillations of flexible structures can generate significant drag or instability. The black marlin's solution trades positional adaptability for absolute structural stability, and the numbers back it up. Peak speeds of up to 129 kilometers per hour have been recorded. Muscle temperature directly affects contraction speed. Cold muscles contract more slowly, warm muscles faster. Fast pelagic fish like tuna and the mako independently evolved systems to keep muscle temperature above the surrounding water, regional endothermy. The sailfish has a less developed version of this system, but still a relevant one. Networks of blood vessels called rete mirabile create heat exchanges between warm arterial blood leaving the muscles and cold venous blood returning, retaining heat locally. The result is musculature operating at a temperature above the surrounding environment, faster contractions, quicker reactions, a more efficient predator during every second of a chase. Each of the sailfish's adaptations solves a specific physical equation. The snout cuts, the mucus lubricates, the fusiform body maintains laminar flow, the lunate tail converts lateral oscillation into forward thrust, the foldable fin eliminates extra drag during sprints, the centralized muscle reduces rotational inertia, and partial endothermy accelerates contractions. None of these solutions work in isolation. The efficiency comes from the combination. Remove any one element, and overall performance degrades. This integrated package of interdependent adaptations is what separates the title holder of fastest animal in the ocean from any competitor. Not a single advantage, but multiple simultaneous advantages that add up to a high-precision biological machine. The shortfin mako shark, Isurus oxyrhynchus*, is the fastest shark on the planet, with peak speeds of 74 kilometers per hour. Like the bluefin tuna, the mako has to swim constantly to survive. Water must flow continuously over its gills to oxygenate the blood. If it stops, it dies. To sustain that speed, the mako is endothermic. It keeps its body temperature above that of the surrounding water, which speeds up muscle contraction and neural processing. It can see in the dark using light-detecting cells and a tapetum lucidum, the same structure found in cat eyes, combined with the ability to detect pressure changes in the water. A predator that can never stop, that sees in the dark, and that keeps its own body warm to ensure its muscles respond faster than those of any prey operating at ambient temperature. Most sharks ventilate passively. They open their mouths as they swim, and water flows automatically over the gills. The mako takes that dependence even further. It's an obligate ram ventilator. That means the flow of water over its gills depends entirely on the forward movement of its own body. Without a minimum cruising speed, water flow stops. The gills can't extract enough oxygen from the blood, and the animal goes into hypoxia. It's not an optional metabolic limitation. It's a permanent structural condition. Every second of the mako's existence is also a second of continuous swimming. The animal doesn't sleep in the conventional sense. It alternates between periods of reduced activity and continuous movement that keeps the vital flow running through its gills. Imagine trying to rest without ever stopping moving. For humans, complete muscle rest is an essential part of the biological cycle. Muscles repair damaged fibers, the nervous system consolidates information, organs perform maintenance. The mako runs a compressed, continuous version of that process while swimming. Distinct muscle regions alternate between activity and recovery in short cycles, while the body's overall movement never stops. It's a biological solution to a physical constraint imposed by the animal's own respiratory anatomy. The cost is high, constant energy demand, even during periods of lower activity. The payoff is existing as a pelagic predator of the open ocean, with no fixed territory, capable of covering kilometers in any direction. The mako's endothermy sets it apart from the vast majority of fish. Ectothermic animals, cold-blooded in everyday language, have body temperatures determined by the environment. In an ocean at 18 degrees Celsius, an ectothermic tuna would have muscles operating at 18 degrees. The mako keeps its internal muscle temperature between 4 and 10 degrees above the surrounding water through the same reedy mirabile system described in the context of the sailfish. Networks of blood vessels that exchange heat between arterial and venous blood before that heat is lost to the environment. Muscle operating at 26 degrees in 18-degree water contracts substantially faster. That difference in contraction speed can be the margin between catching a prey and losing it for good. The mako's tapetum lucidum is a reflective layer located behind the retina. When light passes through the eye and isn't absorbed by the photoreceptors on the first pass, the tapetum reflects it back through the retina, giving it a second chance at detection. The result is functional vision in very low light conditions. Cats, dogs, and most terrestrial nocturnal predators have the exact same structure. It's what causes the eye shine in animals photographed with a flash. In the ocean environment, where sunlight fades rapidly with depth, this adaptation allows the mako to hunt in deeper, darker layers where less adapted prey can't see well. Combining speed and night vision in a single predator creates a dramatic imbalance in capabilities. The mako's lateral line is a sensory system with no equivalent in land animals. A canal of pores distributed along the body detects pressure variations and water displacement with millimeter precision. When a school of fish changes direction, the pressure disturbance generated by their movement propagates through the water. The mako detects it and reacts before the visual change can even be processed by its eyes. It's an additional sense beyond vision and hearing that allows the animal to perceive the three-dimensional environment around it without depending on light. During nighttime hunts at depth, while prey rely primarily on residual vision, the mako tracks movements through pressure disturbance, maintaining a sensory edge even in total darkness. The mako's teeth have a shape unlike those of other sharks. Long, narrow, and slightly curved inward, they're not designed for crushing but for gripping high-value slippery prey. Tuna, marlins, swordfish. These are fast, muscular animals covered in small scales and dense skin. Flat or serrated teeth would slide off. Long, curved teeth penetrate and hold. The anatomy of the mouth maps directly to the diet. The mako is not a generalist hunter. It's specialized in catching exactly the kind of prey that swims almost as fast as it does. That means pursuits are high-speed races between predator and prey, and the margin of victory is often measured in meters and seconds. The mako's musculature is arranged in an unusual way. Bands of red muscle, rich in myoglobin, aerobic, fatigue-resistant, are located close to the spine rather than near the surface of the body, as is the case with most fish. That central positioning keeps the heat generated by muscle metabolism close to the body's core axis, far from the surface where it would dissipate into the water. Its functional thermal design, warmer muscle, faster contractions, protected from heat loss by the layer of white muscle surrounding it on the outside. This arrangement is a direct result of the pressure toward endothermy. The animal doesn't just generate heat, it distributes it anatomically so that heat stays where it matters most for performance. The macaque's reproduction adds a particularly striking detail to its biology. Females are viviparous, pups develop internally. However, the mako practices intrauterine oophagy. More developed embryos consume unfertilized eggs, and eventually, their smaller siblings inside the uterus. The pups that are born are already functional predators measuring around 70 centimeters, with fully formed teeth and innate hunting behavior. There's no period of vulnerability comparable to that of terrestrial mammals. The pup exits the womb as a predator. This reproductive strategy ensures that the few pups that are born are the most competitive from their very first moment. Quality over quantity, selected over time in favor of the most capable survivor. The mako inhabits open oceans worldwide, covering distances that rival bird migrations. Satellite tracking has documented individuals crossing the Atlantic in a matter of weeks. Thousands of kilometers with no territorial reference, guided by temperature gradients, salinity, and Earth's magnetic fields detected by the ampullae of Lorenzini, electroreceptor organs in the snout. A predator that can never stop swimming, that sees in the dark, maintains an elevated internal temperature, detects pressure and electricity, and crosses entire oceans in search of fast prey. The mako brings together in a single animal a set of specializations that make it functionally unlike almost anything else in the ocean. The obligation to never stop, which looks like a limitation, shaped every aspect of this biology toward the perfection of the open ocean predator. The yellowfin tuna, Thunnus albicaris, solves the problem of speed with a mechanism that human engineering took decades to replicate in machines: countercurrent heat exchange. Warm blood leaving the muscles flows alongside cold blood coming in from outside, transferring heat without mixing the two streams. This countercurrent heat exchanger allows the tuna to regulate its body temperature in cold waters, hunting efficiently where smaller prey slow down from the cold. The result is a warm-blooded animal inside a fish's body. Muscles that contract faster, quicker reactions, more explosive acceleration. The yellowfin tuna's top speed is 71 kilometers per hour. The same thermal solution appears in the swordfish, the marlin, and the mako, independent convergence on the same physical problem, across completely different evolutionary lineages. Temperature is speed. That relationship, simple to state, completely transforms the biology of aquatic predators. When a muscle cools down, the proteins responsible for contraction, actin and myosin, interact more slowly. The chemical reactions that generate muscular force depend on enzymes, and enzymes operate at a pace dictated by the surrounding temperature. In an ocean at 15 degrees Celsius, an ectothermic fish has muscles functioning at exactly that temperature. Slow contractions, delayed reactions, limited acceleration. The yellowfin tuna keeps its muscle temperature up to 10 degrees above the surrounding water. That differential turns every muscle fiber into a pre-warmed engine, ready for maximum output the instant a hunt begins. The countercurrent heat exchanger works like this. Imagine two parallel pipes, one carrying hot liquid in one direction and another carrying cold liquid in the opposite direction. The two flows never mix, but they exchange heat through the pipe walls. The hot liquid gradually loses heat, the cold one gains it. In the tuna, warm blood leaving the active muscles travels through veins sitting directly alongside arteries, carrying cold blood in from the gills. Heat transfers from the venous blood to the arterial blood before it ever reaches the gills, where it would otherwise be lost to the water. The result is that the heat generated by the muscle stays inside the muscle, instead of escaping through the respiratory system. The tuna recycles its own metabolic heat. Thermal engineers call this arrangement a heat recuperator. The chemical industry uses metal versions to recover energy from industrial processes. Car radiators work on the inverse principle. Nuclear power plants employ heat exchangers at multiple stages. In the tuna, the biological version is called rete mirabile, literally wonderful net in Latin. This interwoven network of blood vessels, visible under a microscope as a dense mesh of interleaved capillaries, represents a solution that natural selection arrived at independently multiple times. In the mako, the swordfish, certain sharks, and different species of tuna, when completely distinct lineages converge on the same solution, it indicates that the physical problem has one optimal answer, and biology finds it repeatedly. The advantage of regional endothermy becomes especially relevant at the ocean's thermal boundaries. Thermoclines, layers where water temperature drops sharply with depth, create dividing lines between warm surface zones and cold, deep ones. Smaller, ectothermic prey slow down as they cross those boundaries. The tuna crosses thermoclines without any loss of muscular performance, chasing prey that become progressively slower as the temperature drops. It's like a runner maintaining a constant pace while all their competitors slow down. The advantage doesn't come from being faster under equal conditions, but from maintaining performance when conditions change and others can't keep up. The yellowfin tuna's tail is narrow at the base and wide at the tips, the same lunate shape as the sailfish and the mako. But the tuna adds a detail that further boosts propulsive efficiency. The base of the tail has keels, lateral bony projections that function as horizontal stabilizers. These keels reduce the turbulence generated by the tail's motion, keeping the flow organized in that critical region. In an animal that beats its tail hundreds of times per minute during hours of sustained swimming, every reduction in turbulence adds up to energy savings multiplied across thousands of strokes. The tuna isn't just faster, it's more energy efficient, which allows it to sustain high speed for longer than predators that waste energy with every unnecessary stroke. The yellowfin tuna's pectoral fins retract completely into lateral grooves in the body at high speed. While the sailfish folds its dorsal fin, the tuna goes further. All paired fins slot into specific anatomical grooves, making the lateral profile perfectly smooth. Fluid dynamics studies show that even minimal protrusions on surfaces under high speed generate disturbances disproportionate to their size. A pectoral fin exposed at 71 kilometers per hour creates drag equivalent to carrying a constant weight throughout the entire chase. The tuna eliminates that resistance anatomically. Precise grooves in the body that receive each fin like a puzzle piece, turning a multi-part body into a single hydrodynamic object. Large, strategically positioned eyes round out the package. The yellowfin tuna has sharp vision across varying light conditions, allowing it to track schools of fish at different depths. The coordination between visual processing and muscular response happens in minimal time, a short neural circuit between the retina, the brain, and the musculature. Fast predators need reaction times proportional to the speeds they reach. At 71 kilometers per hour, the tuna covers nearly 20 meters per second. A turning decision that arrives just 100 milliseconds too late results in 2 meters of trajectory error. The tuna's nervous system operates in sync with its muscular speed, a warmed muscle and a fast nerve as components of the same integrated system. Tuna are migratory animals that cross entire oceans. Satellite-tracked individuals have crossed the Atlantic in under 2 months. Distances of thousands of kilometers, covered without fixed territories or any visible geographic reference points. That behavior requires precise navigation in a seemingly uniform environment. The tuna uses temperature gradients, Earth's magnetic fields, and the position of the sun for orientation. The muscular endothermy that enables hunting speed also sustains continuous long-distance swimming. The same mechanism that accelerates the muscle during sprints maintains the temperature needed for efficiency during ocean crossings that last weeks. Speed and endurance in the tuna come from the same thermal adaptation. The independent convergence of Rete mirabile across lineages, as distinct as tuna, mako, swordfish, and marlin, tells us something fundamental about physics and biology. When the same problem, keeping muscle temperature above the aquatic environment, is presented to lineages that diverged tens of millions of years ago, and all of them arrive at the same structural solution, it demonstrates that the solution is optimal within the limits of what biological tissue can build. There is no other way to transfer heat between moving fluids at a microscopic scale with the material constraints that living tissue imposes, other than countercurrent exchange. Physics determines the solution. Biology discovers it repeatedly whenever environmental pressure demands enough speed for muscle temperature to make the difference between catching a prey and losing it. The swordfish Xiphias gladius has an adaptation found in no other pelagic fish, a specialized organ located behind the eyes that warms the brain and retina. This countercurrent heat exchange mechanism heats the swordfish's brain and eyes, allowing them to function in cold waters. The advantage is direct. Cold eyes process images more slowly. Warmed eyes detect movement with greater precision and in less reaction time. In the deep, cold waters where the swordfish hunts, the temperature difference between its eyes and those of the fish around it represents a permanent sensory edge. The maximum recorded speed is close to 97 kilometers per hour, but it's the heat-enhanced vision, not just raw speed, that makes the swordfish a precision hunter in the cold depths of the open ocean. The retina is nervous tissue. Like all nervous tissue, its function depends on electrochemical reactions. Ions crossing cell membranes, neurotransmitters released at synapses, action potentials propagating between cells. All of these reactions are temperature sensitive. Below the optimal point, they slow down. Above it, they can become imprecise or even destructive. In a cold retina, the time it takes for a photoreceptor to detect light, generate an electrical signal, and transmit that signal to the optic nerve increases. The practical consequence is that fast-moving objects leave blurry trails in the animal's perception, the equivalent of trying to photograph a fast-moving object with too long an exposure. The swordfish solves this by warming the organ that takes the photograph. The swordfish's heating organ originates from a modified extraocular muscle, one of the muscles that would normally move the eyeball. Instead of contracting to rotate the eye, this muscle lost the ability to generate mechanical force and now functions exclusively as a heat generator. The biological process is called non-shivering thermogenesis. The muscle dissipates metabolic energy directly as heat, without producing movement. That heat warms the blood supplying the eye and brain through a specialized vascular system. The temperature of the swordfish's eye can be up to 10 to 15 degrees Celsius above the surrounding water, a significant difference that transforms sensory performance in a deep-water hunting environment. No other pelagic fish has an organ exclusively dedicated to visual warming. Sharks, tuna, and marlins have Rete mirabile heating their musculature. The swordfish went further, directing its thermal investment specifically toward the sensory system. This reflects a different hunting strategy. While tuna and mako are pure speed predators, fast pursuit, capture by overtaking, the swordfish is a precision predator. It descends to depths of 600 meters or more during the day, where light is minimal and temperature drops drastically. There, it detects and strikes prey with its wide, flattened bill, stunning them with lateral slashes before consuming them. For that, eyes that operate at maximum acuity in the cold dark are worth more than any additional muscular advantage. The swordfish's bill, the rostrum, is flat rather than cylindrical, unlike the pointed snouts of marlins. That shape generates less frontal hydrodynamic resistance during fast lateral movements. When the animal swings its head to strike prey, the flattened bill cuts through the water with minimal lateral drag, a precise, fast blow. Biomechanical studies suggest the bill can also be used to slash through the connective tissue of dense schools of fish, creating a confusion zone where individual prey become disoriented and vulnerable. The specific shape of the bill combines hydrodynamic function with hunting function. Again, multiple advantages packed into a single anatomical structure. The swordfish's daily vertical migration is a remarkable behavior. During the day, it descends to cold, dark depths where prey metabolism slows due to temperature. At night, it rises to warmer surface layers where biological productivity is greater. This vertical movement of hundreds of meters, carried out daily, exposes the animal to sharp changes in temperature, pressure, and light. Pressure increases by roughly 1 atmosphere every 10 meters of depth. At 600 meters, the swordfish is withstanding 60 times the atmospheric pressure at sea level. The animal's physiology handles these transitions without damage because biological tissues are mostly incompressible, but any air cavity would be instantly crushed. The adult swordfish has no functional swim bladder. The swim bladder, the organ most fish use to control buoyancy without spending energy swimming, would be a problem for the adult swordfish. At the depths it frequents, the gas inside would be compressed so much that the organ would lose all function. The animal compensates for the absence of a swim bladder with a large, lipid-rich liver. Fats are less dense than water, working as passive biological floats. The size and composition of the liver adjust the average body density to close to that of the surrounding water, reducing the effort needed to maintain depth. Unlike a bladder filled with compressible gas, lipids resist compression with far less volume loss, maintaining their buoyancy function even under extreme pressure. The swordfish's bill contains internal channels filled with oil. That oil serves a hydrodynamic purpose, reducing turbulence around the structure during fast movements, but may also contribute additional buoyancy to the head. The internal bone structure of the bill is porous, reducing mass without compromising mechanical strength. This lightweight, porous design appears in bird bones, where maximizing strength with minimum weight is equally critical. In the swordfish, the combination of a light, porous bill filled with oil reduces the load the neck musculature has to support during fast lateral strikes. Less mass to move means faster response. Simple physics applied to every anatomical detail. The skin of the adult swordfish has no scales, unlike most bony fish. The smooth surface reduces friction with the water in a way analogous to the sailfish's oily secretion, but as a permanent structural feature. Scales, even small ones, create microdisturbances in the water flow along the surface. Without them, the boundary layer, the thin layer of water that adheres directly to the animal's surface, stays more organized and less turbulent. The absence of scales isn't an anatomical limitation. It's the result of selective pressure in favor of a more hydrodynamic surface. Adding speed by eliminating surface friction, with no additional metabolic cost, is an elegant structural solution. Once built, it works continuously without consuming any energy. The swordfish brings together adaptations that cover every aspect of the problem of hunting in cold, dark depths. Warmed eyes for precise vision in the dark, a flattened bill for efficient lateral strikes, scaleless skin to reduce friction, a lipid liver for passive buoyancy under high pressure, and a speed close to 100 kilometers per hour to cover distance quickly between the different layers of the ocean it inhabits throughout the day. Each adaptation solves a specific constraint of the environment. Eyes that see in the cold, a body that glides without friction, a structure that withstands extreme pressure, a weapon that cuts with precision. Together, they define an animal built to dominate a niche that very few species can even reach let alone exploit with that kind of efficiency. The common dolphin, Delphinus delphis*, reaches 60 kilometers per hour and solves the propulsion problem in a way that's fundamentally different from any fish. Instead of moving its tail side to side, it moves it up and down vertically. Common dolphins use sophisticated fin mechanics to generate tremendous propulsion, but their speed is frequently limited by cavitation, a physical phenomenon where water pressure drops so far below normal that bubbles form on the fins, causing intense pain and physical damage to the sensitive skin. Cavitation is the biological sealing of the marine mammal. Pushing water too hard creates bubbles that violently collapse against the fin itself. Unlike fish, the dolphin cannot exceed that limit without hurting itself. The common dolphin's 60 kilometers per hour is close to the physical ceiling that mammalian biology allows. The difference between a vertical tail and a lateral tail isn't a minor detail. It reflects completely distinct anatomical histories. Fish descended from aquatic ancestors. Their spines flex naturally from side to side, and the tail sweeps laterally as an extension of that motion. Dolphins descended from four-legged land mammals that returned to the sea. The mammalian spine flexes primarily in the vertical plane, up and down, like that of a dog or a leopard running at full speed. When those terrestrial ancestors went back to the water, they kept the vertical spinal flexion. The dolphin's horizontal tail is the natural extension of that ancestral biomechanics. Each upward and downward stroke converts spinal flexion into forward thrust. Cavitation occurs when local pressure in a region of fluid drops below the vapor pressure of that fluid, the point where water molecules spontaneously shift to a gaseous state, forming tiny bubbles. When a dolphin's fin moves rapidly through the water, it creates a low-pressure zone behind it. At high enough speeds, that pressure falls below the vaporization threshold and bubbles form instantly. When those bubbles collapse, and they collapse violently, generating microscopic shock waves, they hit the fin's surface with enough force to cause physical damage to the tissue. The dolphin's skin is sensitive and biologically valuable. Repeatedly damaging it by exceeding safe speeds represents a cost that outweighs any possible kinetic gain. Ship propellers suffer from cavitation, and the problem is serious enough that it limits both speed and equipment lifespan. Metal progressively hardens after repeated exposure to the collapse of cavitation bubbles. Metal surfaces end up pitted with characteristic small craters. Replacing propellers damaged by cavitation is routine naval maintenance. The dolphin's skin doesn't have that resilience. Biological tissue, even with its capacity for regeneration, cannot recover from the continuous erosion that severe cavitation would produce. Evolution settled on 60 kilometers per hour as a speed close to the safe operational ceiling. The speed at which cavitation begins to appear, but hasn't yet caused sustained damage. Consistently exceeding that limit would mean tearing itself apart to gain speed. The common dolphin's skin has a property that baffled engineers for decades. It's slightly elastic and flexible at a microscopic scale. When pressure waves hit the surface at high speed, the skin absorbs and dampens those disturbances instead of reflecting them back into the fluid. That dampening reduces the tendency for turbulence to form in the boundary layer, the thin region of water in direct contact with the animal. A rigid surface reflects disturbances, creating instabilities that grow into turbulence. A flexible surface absorbs them, keeping the flow more organized. Researchers have attempted to replicate this effect in submarine and torpedo coatings, with partial results. The biological version remains more efficient than anything human synthesis has achieved so far. The bow-riding behavior that dolphins display when positioning themselves in front of ships and whales isn't just playful. It's smart exploitation of a pressure field. The bow of a vessel or the body of a large whale creates a zone of positive pressure ahead of it that pushes water to the sides. A dolphin positioned in that zone receives passive thrust. It's literally being pushed by the pressure field of the larger object in front of it. Hydrodynamic studies confirm that dolphins bow riding expend less energy to maintain the same speed than they would swimming freely. It's hydrodynamic surfing, using the disturbance of another object to gain propulsion without activating additional musculature. Efficiency extracted from a passive physical phenomenon. The common dolphin's brain is large relative to its body, a proportion that in mammals correlates with complex social behavior and learning capacity. Dolphins hunt in coordinated groups, developing tactics that vary by population and region. Some groups herd schools of fish in tightening spirals, progressively compressing them. Others use air bubbles as visual barriers that confuse prey. Still others coordinate with seabirds that spot schools from above. This behavioral versatility amplifies the impact of every physical adaptation. The 60 km/h speed isn't just individual pursuit. It's a component of collective strategies that make it far more effective than any single number would suggest. The common dolphin's echolocation functions like a high-resolution active sonar. Ultrasonic clicks produced in a nasal structure called the melon propagate through the water, bounce off objects, and return to the animal, where they're detected by the lower jaw and transmitted to the inner ear. The resolution of this system is remarkable. Dolphins in experiments can distinguish between objects of very similar shapes at distances of tens of meters in complete darkness. During nighttime hunts or in murky water, echolocation replaces vision as the primary sensor. The common dolphin can detect, locate, and identify prey without depending on light, an advantage that works under all ocean conditions, regardless of time of day or depth. Pulmonary breathing, an inescapable characteristic of mammals, imposes a constraint that no fish faces. The dolphin has to surface regularly. Every few minutes, the animal rises, exhales through the blowhole, and inhales atmospheric air. That unavoidable cycle interrupts chases, requires the animal to constantly monitor its vertical position relative to the surface, and consumes time that gill-breathing fish never have to spend. The physiological solution is extreme respiratory efficiency. Dolphins exchange up to 80% of their lung volume with each breath. Humans exchange roughly 10% in normal breathing. One deep, fast breath at the surface provides enough oxygen for several minutes of high-speed pursuit. The mammalian limitation has been minimized but not eliminated, and it shapes every aspect of hunting behavior. 60 km/h inside a fluid 800 times denser than air, using a spine inherited from a terrestrial ancestor, limited by the cavitation that physics imposes on any surface that aggressively accelerates fluid, breathing air instead of extracting oxygen directly from water. The common dolphin reaches 60 km/h while carrying constraints that no fast fish has. That it does so with such efficiency, using skin that dampens turbulence, collective behavior that amplifies individual speed, echolocation that eliminates dependence on light, and the ability to exploit other objects' pressure fields for free propulsion, reveals an animal that didn't compete with fish on the same terms, but created its own rules, and came nearly as far as the best players on the opposing team. The orca, Ursinus orca*, weighs up to 6 tons and reaches 56 km/h, a speed that, in an animal of that mass, demands a level of muscular force no other marine mammal can generate. According to the Guinness World Records, the fastest orca ever recorded was a male that hit 55.5 km/h in October 1958. The structure that generates that propulsion is the horizontal tail flukes. In an adult male, they can exceed 1.8 meters in width. The orca's size, paradoxically, helps it maintain momentum once it reaches top speed. That speed isn't used for prolonged chases. It's used in short, explosive bursts during group hunting strategies, where each individual's role is coordinated with enough precision to bring down whales far larger than themselves. 6 tons moving at 56 kilometers per hour carry enormous momentum. Momentum, the product of mass and velocity, is the physical quantity that determines how hard it is to stop or redirect an object in motion. A compact car at 110 kilometers per hour has a certain momentum. An orca at half that speed has substantially greater momentum simply because of the difference in mass. When this animal deliberately collides with prey during a hunting maneuver, the transfer of kinetic energy is devastating. Adult humpback whales, which can weigh 30 tons, are knocked off balance by groups of orcas coordinating simultaneous strikes. Each individual impact adding to the others until the prey loses its balance and control. The adult male orca's horizontal tail flukes exceed 1.8 meters in width, a structure larger than the average height of an adult human, driven by musculature that makes up roughly 1/3 of the animal's total mass. To generate 56 kilometers per hour with 6 tons, each stroke of those flukes must displace enough water to produce propulsive force proportional to the inertia that has to be overcome. The physics are straightforward. Propulsive force must exceed hydrodynamic drag, which scales with the square of velocity and with the frontal area of the object. The orca has an enormous frontal area. To move that mass at that speed, the tail muscles generate power that surpasses any other aquatic mammal in absolute terms. A bite force of 19,000 psi, pounds per square inch, needs some context. A large guard dog bites at around 300 psi, a lion at roughly 650 psi, a Nile crocodile at values close to 3,700 psi. The orca surpasses all of them by a wide margin. That force isn't used indiscriminately. Orcas rarely bite humans in the wild, and documented attacks are almost always from animals in captivity under stress. The high-pressure bite is used to hold large prey that's trying to escape, to break through the resistant bone structures of large fish and cetaceans, and to manipulate prey during hunting strategies that involve stunning before the final blow. Orcas in different oceans have developed radically different hunting techniques, and those techniques are passed down culturally within groups, not genetically between populations. North Atlantic orcas hunt herring using a maneuver called the carousel. The group compresses the school into a tight ball near the surface, then slaps their tails to stun the fish with pressure waves before consuming them individually. Patagonian orcas deliberately beach themselves on shallow shores to catch sea lions, a behavior that mothers teach their calves in observable training sessions. Alaskan orcas specialize in stealing fish from human fishing lines. Same species, different cognitive tools, culture passed down through social learning. The 56 kilometers per hour speed is not sustained continuously. Orcas alternate between cruising, speeds of 5 to 10 kilometers per hour, energy efficient, maintained during long crossings, and hunting sprints that peak for seconds or a few minutes. The group hunting strategy eliminates the need for a prolonged chase at top speed. The group positions individuals to cut off escape routes before accelerating. The individual orca doesn't need to be faster than its prey over a long distance. It only needs to be fast enough at the right moment, in the right place, within a collective strategy that has already narrowed the prey's options before the sprint even begins. The adult male orca's dorsal fin can exceed 1.8 meters in height, a disproportionately large structure compared to any other cetacean. In the wild, it stays upright. In captivity, it collapses to one side, a phenomenon attributed to a combination of connective tissue dehydration, the absence of swimming speeds high enough to maintain internal hydrostatic pressure, and general physiological stress. The dorsal fin is composed primarily of fibrous connective tissue with no internal bone, a structure maintained by tissue turgidity and the flow of internal fluids. The fact that deprivation of a natural environment produces visible structural collapse indicates just how dependent the animal's physiology is on specific conditions of continuous movement and adequate space. The orca's echolocation system has enough resolution to distinguish between fish species at a distance. Experiments have shown that captive animals can tell salmon from cod by echolocation alone, with no visual cues whatsoever. In the field, that discriminatory power allows groups of orcas specialized in salmon to ignore schools of other species, even when they pass right by, focusing their effort exclusively on their preferred prey. Dietary specialization, combined with the cultural transmission of techniques, creates subpopulations with diets so different that researchers classify them as distinct ecotypes, groups with different behavior, vocalizations, and even slightly different morphology, living in the same oceans without interbreeding, separated by cultural preferences rather than geographic barriers. Orca vocalizations fall into three functional categories: echolocation clicks, whistles for communication between individuals, and pulsed calls, complex sounds that vary by family group so consistently that researchers can identify specific groups by their acoustic signature. Calves learn the group's calls in the first weeks of life and keep them for the rest of their lives. Groups that never interact develop completely distinct call repertoires, acoustic dialects that function as markers of cultural identity. Sophisticated communication is an inseparable part of hunting coordination. Maneuvers that require multiple individuals to simultaneously position themselves at specific locations at the exact right moment depend on real-time information exchange. The orca brings together, in a single animal, attributes that typically appear spread across different species. Mass sufficient to knock down any ocean prey through sheer impact, speed to catch any marine mammal in a short sprint, bite force that surpasses any aquatic predator, the intelligence to develop and culturally transmit region-specific hunting techniques, and echolocation that identifies prey by species at a distance. There is no natural predator of the adult orca in the wild, a position at the top of the ocean food chain that reflects not one exceptional singular adaptation, but the combination of physical, sensory, and cognitive capabilities that together create a predator with no equivalent in the ocean. The California flying fish, Cypselurus californicus doesn't use speed to hunt, it uses it to escape. The strategy starts underwater. The fish builds up speed above 56 kilometers per hour and then launches itself above the surface, spreading its pectoral and pelvic fins to glide up to 200 meters through the air. The fins don't flap like wings, they're held open and fixed, functioning like a glider's wings. The lower lobe of the tail, which is longer than the upper, stays in the water during the launch and beats rapidly to generate additional propulsion at the moment of takeoff. Once airborne, the fish can gain enough altitude to glide beyond the line of sight of the predator that was chasing it. Flight isn't this animal's fastest movement. It's the underwater acceleration that makes the whole thing possible. Gliding is not flying. Birds, bats, and insects generate active lift. They flap wings to continuously create a force perpendicular to their movement that counteracts gravity. Gliders, flying squirrels, gliding snakes, gliding frogs, and the flying fish extend fixed surfaces that convert horizontal speed into passive lift. The physics are the same as airplane wings. A surface angled relative to the airflow creates a low-pressure region on the top face and a high-pressure region on the bottom, resulting in a net upward force. The faster the horizontal speed, the more lift a fixed surface of a given area generates. The flying fish invests all of its aquatic acceleration into horizontal speed, the only currency it can convert into time in the air. Breaking the surface poses an immediate physical problem. Water is 800 times denser than air. A fish adapted to moving through water faces an abrupt shift in medium the moment it emerges. Drag drops dramatically the instant the body leaves the surface. But lift hasn't been established yet, because the fish needs to open its fins and reach a minimum airspeed for them to generate enough force. The interval between leaving the water and establishing stable glide is the moment of greatest vulnerability. The lower tail lobe, kept in the water during that instant, solves exactly that problem. It keeps generating aquatic propulsion while the body is already in the air, accelerating the animal even further during the critical transition between two completely different physical mediums. The heterocircle tail, with a longer lower lobe, is a feature the flying fish shares with sharks, but for a completely different reason. In sharks, the heterocircle tail generates a force angled slightly upward during horizontal swimming, compensating for the natural tendency to sink in animals without a swim bladder. In the flying fish, the longer lower lobe serves specifically for the launch phase. As the body exits the water at an upward angle, the lower lobe still touches the surface and beats, rapid strokes called taxiing, producing additional thrust in the final milliseconds before full separation from the water. A similar anatomical structure, a completely different function, convergence of form driven by distinct selective pressures. The California flying fish's pectoral fins are disproportionately large relative to its body. When spread open, they extend laterally at an angle that maximizes surface area perpendicular to the direction of movement. The ratio between wingspan and wing length, called aspect ratio, determines gliding efficiency. High ratios, like those of albatrosses, allow for long-distance gliding with minimal altitude loss per meter traveled. The flying fish's fins have a high aspect ratio for aquatic biological structures, a shape that trades maneuverability for gliding efficiency. It's not built for quick aerial maneuvers. It's a straight-line escape vehicle, covering maximum distance with whatever speed it had at the moment of launch. 200 meters of gliding is a considerable distance, more than 2 football fields in length. During that stretch, the fish is completely out of the water. No aquatic predator can follow it, regardless of speed or jumping ability. The typical altitude during gliding ranges between 1 and 4 meters above the surface, high enough to be out of reach of any jumping fish, but low enough that surface winds can interfere. In favorable wind conditions, the flying fish can stay airborne for over 40 seconds and cover even greater distances, with the airflow contributing additional lift that supplements the initial launch speed. Aerial predators like frigate birds and albatrosses have learned to exploit this behavior. When a flying fish breaks the surface to escape an aquatic predator, it can enter the field of view of an aerial predator patrolling the surface. The flying fish's escape strategy transfers risk from one domain to another. It swaps the certain threat of the aquatic predator for the possible threat of the aerial one. The fish is betting that the probability of being caught in the air is lower than the probability of being caught in the water. Statistically, for the species as a whole, that bet appears to be correct. The strategy persists because it works on average, even when it fails individually in specific cases. The flying fish's swim bladder is connected to the esophagus, a configuration called physostomus, which allows the animal to inflate or deflate the bladder more quickly than fish with a closed bladder. This matters because gliding behavior requires rapid buoyancy adjustments between dives and launches. Before a launch sprint, the animal needs to be at the right depth to execute the upward trajectory at the right angle to break the surface cleanly. Incorrect buoyancy would position the animal too deep or too shallow, compromising the exit trajectory. The fast-adjusting bladder allows for quick repositioning between consecutive gliding events. The animal can execute multiple launches in sequence if the threat persists. Schools of flying fish breaking the surface simultaneously create a striking sight. Dozens or hundreds of animals exiting the water at similar angles, fins spread, gliding in parallel trajectories for a few seconds before re-entering. This group behavior amplifies the effectiveness of the escape. When many individuals emerge at the same time, the aquatic predator loses track of the specific individual it was chasing, and opportunistic aerial predators are overwhelmed by simultaneous targets, reducing the probability of any one individual being caught. The mass escape is a passive collective strategy. No active coordination is needed, just the same threat trigger producing the same escape response in all of them at once. The California flying fish is an animal built around a single critical moment: the transition between water and air at the instant of maximum speed. Every aspect of its anatomy, the heterocircle tail for final taxiing, the high aspect ratio pectoral and pelvic fins for efficient gliding, the fast-adjusting swim bladder for precise positioning, the fusiform body for reaching 56 kilometers per hour before launch, converges to optimize those seconds of transition between two physically incompatible mediums. It's not the fastest in the water, not the most agile in the air. It can't hunt while airborne, and it can't stay above the surface indefinitely. But no other animal executes the transition between the two domains more efficiently. And for prey, sometimes it's enough to be excellent at one thing at the exact moment. That one thing is the only thing that matters. The Genta penguin, *Pygoscelis papua*, is the fastest bird in the water, reaching 36 kilometers per hour, comparable to Usain Bolt's average speed over the 100-meter dash. Researchers who filmed and computationally modeled the flipper movement of the Genta discovered that the primary source of propulsion is a motion called feathering. The penguin tilts the edges of its flippers forward or backward, changing the angle relative to the water. The Genta's flippers resemble airplane wings covered in scale-like feathers. The shape creates lift that, underwater, converts into forward propulsion. The Genta has no swim bladder, no gills, and doesn't breathe underwater. It's a mammal that dives, accelerates, catches its prey, and surfaces to breathe, repeating that cycle hundreds of times a day during feeding season. Penguins are birds that lost the ability to fly through the air and transferred all of their aerodynamic efficiency to the aquatic environment. The wings of flying birds are long, wide, and covered in contour feathers that create a light, flexible surface. The Genta penguin's flippers are short, rigid, and dense, flattened, fused bones that form a solid structure with no movable intermediate joints. That rigidity, which would be a fatal limitation for a flying bird, is precisely what allows for consistent propulsive force underwater. A flexible wing that bends under hydrodynamic load loses efficiency. A rigid flipper maintains its aerodynamic profile under whatever pressure the water exerts during movement. Feathering, tilting the edges of the flipper, is the same principle that aeronautical engineers use in airplane propellers and wind turbines. When a surface moves through a fluid at the right angle of attack, it creates a pressure difference between its two faces. Low pressure on one side, high on the other, generating a force perpendicular to the surface's motion. On an airplane, that force is the lift that keeps the aircraft airborne. On the penguin's flipper moving downward and backward, that force is directed forward, converting the lateral motion of the flipper into forward propulsion of the body. The penguin does this bilaterally, alternating flippers, producing nearly continuous thrust similar to counter-rotating propellers spinning in sync. The scale-like feathers covering the Genta penguin's flippers are not conventional contour feathers. They are modified structures, short, dense, and overlapping like fish scales. Each individual feather contributes to the flipper's aerodynamic shape, filling in irregularities and smoothing the surface. Together they form a profile that, in cross-section, resembles the NACA profile, a family of wing shapes developed by NASA to maximize lift with minimum drag. Nature arrived at that shape through selective pressure. Engineering arrived at the same point through mathematical calculation. The result is a surface that efficiently generates lift both in water and, to a lesser extent, in the air during the small hops penguins make when shooting out of the water at high speed. The bone density of the genta penguin is significantly greater than that of flying birds. Flying birds have pneumatized bones, hollow on the inside, filled with extensions of the air sacs, minimizing mass to reduce the energy cost of flight. The penguin doesn't need to minimize mass for flight. It needs to control buoyancy underwater. Denser, heavier bones reduce the tendency to float, allowing deeper dives without constant energy expenditure just to sink. The genta dives to depths of up to 200 meters, pressures of 20 atmospheres, and stays submerged for up to 7 minutes. The elevated bone density isn't a limitation inherited from a flying ancestor. It's an active adaptation that makes hunting at depth more efficient. The genta penguin's thermal insulation combines two distinct layers. The outer layer of contour feathers, which is waterproof, creates a physical barrier against the water. The animal comes out completely dry after dives because the feathers don't absorb water. Below that layer, smaller, denser down feathers create a cushion of static air close to the skin. Moving air conducts heat, static air retains it. That still air cushion functions as highly efficient passive thermal insulation. A third layer of subcutaneous fat adds further insulation and serves as an energy reserve. In waters below 0 degrees Celsius, a common temperature in the genta's Antarctic habitat, the combined insulation keeps the internal body temperature close to 38 degrees Celsius without excessive caloric expenditure. The genta penguin's metabolism during intensive dives is remarkable. Upon submerging, heart rate drops dramatically, dive bradycardia, reducing oxygen consumption by non-essential organs. Blood flow is redistributed to prioritize the brain and propulsive musculature. Myoglobin at exceptionally high concentrations in the muscles stores oxygen locally. The flipper muscles function as independent oxygen reservoirs during the dive. When the animal surfaces, heart rate rises rapidly, and the circulatory system clears accumulated carbon dioxide while recharging oxygen reserves. The entire cycle of submersion, hunting, and recovery is optimized to minimize time at the surface and maximize productive time at depth. The genta's hunting strategy combines speed with surprising maneuverability. Krill and small fish, its main prey, change direction abruptly when threatened. The penguin responds with quick turns made easier by the rigidity of its flippers, which allow precise directional adjustments without the proportional loss of speed that would occur with flexible flippers. Air bubbles released from the feathers during deep dives reduce drag. Researchers found that the controlled collapse of the air layer trapped by the feathers creates a film of microbubbles around the body that lowers hydrodynamic resistance during capture sprints. The animal physically uses the air it carries as thermal insulation, also as a hydrodynamic lubricant during maximum acceleration. On land, the genta is a completely different animal. Bipedal with an upright posture, it walks with short, waddling steps that consume considerable energy to cover modest distances. The same anatomy that makes it extraordinary in the water, dense bones, rigid flippers, robust body, is suboptimal for moving on land. Genta penguins regularly travel up to 2 kilometers between the beach and their nesting colonies. On steep terrain, the walk is slow and costly. Some groups partially solve this problem by tobogganing, sliding across the ice on their belly, using their flippers as paddles, reducing friction and energy cost on smooth surfaces. The elegant solution for one environment becomes a limitation in the other. The genta penguin closes out the set of 9 animals that open this story with a reversal that sums everything up. The structure that lost its original function, a wing for flying, became the most efficient adaptation available for the new environment. Rigid flippers derived from aerodynamic wings, waterproof feathers that capture air as insulation and release it as a lubricant, dense bones that manage buoyancy instead of minimizing mass for flight. a metabolism that redistributes oxygen as demand shifts with each dive cycle. Every feature is the repurposing of an ancestral structure under new environmental pressure. The Genta didn't invent new solutions. It redirected old ones to different problems, reaching 36 kilometers per hour underwater with tools that a distant ancestor once used to fly through the air. None of the animals on this list sustain their top speed for more than a few seconds. Most fast fish can't hold their maximum speed for long periods. Their peak speeds are short sprints used to attack prey or escape predators. Cruising speeds are lower, but still impressive. The sailfish uses its 110 kilometers per hour for fractions of a second during coordinated hunting strikes. The mako accelerates to catch tuna and then drops back to cruising speed. The orca uses its 56 kilometers per hour in the final moment of a hunting strategy that can last hours. The Genta penguin alternates between capture sprints and trips back to the surface to breathe. The ocean doesn't reward sustained speed, it rewards efficiency, spending the least possible amount of energy at cruising speed and saving the maximum for the one moment when top speed decides between eating and not eating. Top speed and cruising speed are completely different quantities. Confusing them distorts any understanding of how these animals actually live. Top speed is the peak reached under specific conditions for an extremely brief duration at an extremely high metabolic cost. Cruising speed is the speed that can be sustained for hours at a cost compatible with the long-term energy budget. Energy taken in must exceed energy spent. The sailfish that hits 110 kilometers per hour typically swims between 3 and 10 kilometers per hour during normal travel. The mako crosses oceans at approximately 35 kilometers per hour. The orca holds between 5 and 10 kilometers per hour on long crossings. The gap between peak and cruising reflects the logic of the energy budget. Spend the maximum only when the return justifies the cost. Hydrodynamic drag scales with the square of velocity. Doubling speed quadruples drag, requiring 8 times more muscular power to maintain it. This means the energy cost of swimming doesn't grow linearly with speed. It grows exponentially. A sailfish swimming at 20 kilometers per hour spends 4 times more energy per second than at 10 kilometers per hour. At 40 kilometers per hour, 16 times more. At 110 kilometers per hour, the energy demand per second is 121 times greater than at 10 kilometers per hour. Sustaining that level of expenditure for minutes or hours would deplete any available glycogen and lipid reserves rapidly. The animal would shut down long before catching any prey. Top speed is physiologically incompatible with duration. Animal muscles are divided into 2 main types with opposing characteristics. Fast twitch fibers, white muscle, generate high force and fast contraction speed, but fatigue within seconds to minutes because they rely on anaerobic metabolism, rapidly accumulating lactate. Slow twitch fibers, red muscle, generate less force and contract more slowly, but resist fatigue for hours using efficient aerobic metabolism. Fast predators like the sailfish and the mako have a large proportion of white muscle for sprints, and a smaller but critical amount of red muscle for cruising. Both types coexist in the same animal, activated according to demand. Cruising uses red, sprinting recruits white. The transition between the two systems is neurologically controlled, progressively activating additional fibers as speed increases. The lactate produced during anaerobic sprints isn't simply waste, it's deferred fuel. After the sprint, when the animal returns to cruising speed, aerobic metabolism converts accumulated lactate into usable energy. This process, called oxygen debt or excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, means the true energy cost of a sprint doesn't end when the sprint does. The animal pays the difference over minutes or hours of recovery, consuming oxygen above resting levels to process the accumulated lactate. Top speed carries an immediate cost, measured in recruited muscle fibers, and a deferred cost, measured in oxygen consumed during the recovery that inevitably follows. The hunting strategies of the animals on this list directly reflect that energy balance. The orca invests hours at cruising speed positioning group members, then uses seconds of maximum sprint for the final strike, maximizing the energy return from the prey while minimizing the duration of peak expenditure. The sailfish coordinates school encirclements at moderate speed, folding its dorsal fin and accelerating to full speed only during the strike itself. The mako chases tuna, high-calorie prey, justifying the energy cost of the sprint through the nutritional density of what it catches. Each strategy calibrates the investment in top speed against the expected value of the prey, adjusted by the probability of a successful catch. It's an economic calculation executed on instinct. Migration reveals the primacy of efficiency over speed. Tuna cross the Atlantic in weeks. Makos cross oceans in months. Orcas cover thousands of kilometers following migratory fish schools. None of these journeys use speed anywhere near the maximum. All of them operate at the cruising speed that minimizes cost per kilometer traveled. For fish and cetaceans, that optimal cruising speed generally falls between 10% and 30% of top speed. Swimming faster than that optimal point increases cost per kilometer instead of reducing travel time in a proportionally worthwhile way. The ocean literally penalizes excess speed outside the context of hunting or escaping. The animal that swims faster than necessary arrives at its destination lighter, more exhausted, and with fewer reserves for whatever comes next. The contrast between sprint and cruising has a direct parallel in propulsion engineering. Jet engines operate at different power settings. Takeoff demands maximum power briefly. Cruising uses a fraction of that to minimize fuel consumption per kilometer traveled. Race cars have maximum power deployment modes limited by component temperature and available fuel. Rockets burn most of their propellant in the first few minutes, then coast. Biology arrived at the same solutions for identical reasons. Resources are finite, energy cost scales non-linearly with speed, and optimizing for duration means operating below peak most of the time, reserving the maximum for the moment of greatest return. Every animal on this list reached its top speed through a different anatomical path. Fusiform body, lunate tail, muscular endothermy, foldable fin, lubricating mucus, feathering, dense bones, cavitation as a hard ceiling, high mass momentum, but all of them share the same operational logic. Top speed is a tool for specific moments, not a permanent mode of existence. The flying fish uses the sprint to break the surface. The penguin uses the sprint to catch an individual krill. The sailfish uses the sprint to strike a school it has already surrounded. In every case, top speed solves a specific problem at a specific instant, after which the animal returns to the economical mode that allows it to keep existing until the next opportunity. The ocean, dense and resistant, charges a steep price for every additional kilometer of speed. That bill presented by physics shaped every animal on this list in different ways. Some invested in muscle heating, others in hydrodynamic profile, others in collective behavior that substitutes individual speed with group intelligence. But the pressure was the same for all of them. Be fast when you need to, efficient when you can, and never mix up the two moments. The sailfish that opened this list at 110 kilometers per hour and the Genta penguin that closed it at 36 kilometers per hour are equally optimized for the same ocean, responding to the same laws of physics, arriving at different solutions to the same fundamental problem, and returning, each in its own way, to the economical pace that lets the cycle begin again.